Hello and welcome. Today we've got Lewis Herms, and today we are going to be discussing the Eclipse hoax that we're going to dive into, and also how many politicians are illegal because they have not taken their oaths. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Instagram channel at nicholas.veniamin, where you can follow all my daily newsreels. Lewis, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, and what have you been up to?
Oh, I've been fantastic. I've been doing a little bit of traveling. Went to a nice event where President Trump happened to be at, and we learned a lot. And we're working really hard to do everything we can to secure the borders. So that's what that was about. And just been, working really hard. And I have finally, I think the app is going to come out. I hope the final changes will be done by tomorrow. We'll see what's going to happen. And that app will be a game changer. And if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, it's just an app where you can connect with local patriots in your area, and then you can activate to make a difference, whether it's in your school board or board of supervisors and such. It's pretty awesome.
So it's a little bit like a Facebook where you can connect with people, but everything to do with alternative education, health, news, everything, bringing everybody together.
Yeah, it's because a lot of people feel like they're on an island, like, oh, I'm the only one that believes like this. And you'll soon find out with an app like this, there's at least 100 people within a few miles from you that are on the same page. And, now you can start having lunches with them or meetings or get together and create a nice Patriot group. So I think it's going to be, I believe it is the biggest thing to come in this movement. And I'm not saying that because I created it. It just seems like a no-brainer because with all the tours I've done with the True Tour, I think over like 117 cities, 107, I don't know how many cities, over 100, that what the consistent thing we kept hearing is I didn't know there was other people that thought like me, right? And it's really cool to give people an opportunity to connect with each other.
No, of course, absolutely. Now let's talk about the eclipse hoax. Now, what do you think about the solar eclipse that happened recently? That was a hoax.
I believe it was a hoax. Here's the thing. What do we tend to do in the Patriot community is we take any event that may be coming up and somehow we turn it into a bunch of fear porn or a bunch of hopium. And the reality is we're finding out that the truth is generally sometimes someplace in the middle of that, right? So I joke around. The bad news for those were that they're on the timeline of we're going to burn up, or the United States is going to be split into three pieces, right? So on and so forth. The bad news for them is that they were incorrect again. The good news is for the people that they thought they were going to be gloriously ascended into heaven immediately, or going to be on another plane from everybody else. Well, I wish to congratulate them, right? Considering they've already been ascended, they probably won't even be watching this right now, right? But the reality, we didn't burn up, we didn't ascend. It wasn't a huge enlightening event. People grab these things as if they're truth. And my biggest concern, Nick, is these hoaxes I believe, are set up to make us look stupid. And what happens is when we jump on those, and guess what happens in the future when we release a real story, or we talk about something that's real, they're going to use it, go, oh, that's the same guy that told you that everybody was going to ascend during the eclipse, or that we're all going to fall into the ocean. That's the same guy. So they play this game and we chomp on it. We go for it. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that just use it to get clicks, right? And I'm not bashing anybody that believe these. I'm more upset with the people putting out the information. But I'd have to say that we have a responsibility to look into it, right? So I did my own research. And the first thing I would like to ask somebody, if let's say you believe we live on a globe. There's some people that believe we are on a flat earth, but let's say you believe we live on a globe. So that means you'd have to believe that the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. And the moon just so happens to be 400 times closer to the earth, which just so happens to make them appear to be exactly the same size, which so happens that moon that's 400 times smaller just creeps in front of the sun just perfectly to block it out, right? People need to start thinking, yeah, does all that make sense, right? Now, on the flat Earth side, if you believe there's a flat Earth, well, then you say that there's a fake sun and a fake moon up there. So then how could you even talking about the solar eclipse matters at all if it's fake, right? These are the things I just want people to extrapolate the information. So the most common one that was coming on is that in 2017, the solar eclipse went past 7 cities named Salem. Okay. Assuming that to be true, which by the way, it's not, there's called a path of totality, which is 115 miles wide. Okay. That path of totality took up about, let's say, 20% of the total United States. Okay. So if you go over 7 cities of Salem, that would be pretty impressive, except 2 things. Number one, it wasn't 7, it was 4. Number 2, there's 36 cities named Salem in the United States. So of course, you're going to go over 4 cities or 5 cities or 6 cities just on the path of totality alone, because there's so many. And then they said, well, but the 2024 is going up and to the right, and that's going over 7 cities in Nineveh. No, it didn't. It went over 2 cities named Nineveh, right? So these are the things that people need to look into instead of just saying, hey, this is fact. Even the Gateway Pundit published it as fact. And I had to fact check the Gateway Pundit because they screwed up, right? So all I'm asking people to do is, well, we have enough to be hopeful for right now. We, the people, are taking everything back, right? The deep state is fallen. Why do we need to make things up? We don't need to make things up for fear. We don't need to make things up for hopium. Now, I will say this. These eclipses traditionally are a deep state satanic ritualistic day for the cabal. In fact, I had somebody call me that the 8th, 9th, and 10th are days that they'll probably try to do stuff through activating MK Ultra people, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's real. That's something to be concerned about, but I would just pray through it. April 19th is one of their highest holy days. A lot of people don't know that. And that's coming up. So yes, there's a lot of real stuff. Let's just not make things up. There's enough real stuff that are real conspiracies. There's enough real stuff that gives us hope. And there's enough real stuff that could be fearful of. Let's just not make up anything. And that's why this type of stuff really frustrates me.
Yeah, interesting. So, but do you still believe that the eclipse that happened in 2017 and the one that happened just the other day, do you believe that these 2 eclipses still created a cross over North America?
Well, no, it did. It clearly did create a crossover. But here's what people aren't going to tell you, because it's always on the latest and greatest. It's going to do the same thing in 2045. It's going to do the same thing in 2052. I believe it's 2077 and 2099. But they won't tell you that the same phenomena comes where it's going to cross the United States, right? Same thing.
So you're just saying that this is just a natural occurrence and
it is.
We shouldn't look too much into it.
Nope. I think people do, and they invest a lot of time and energy in these things, and they always turn out to be nothing burgers. Mm-hmm. Right. And I get it. I do wish that on April 8th, everybody ascended at one time and we were done with this crap. I totally wish that happened. I'm also a pragmatist, and I like to be the guy that really digs into stuff and finds out the truth, because that's authentic.
So in the Bible, when it says that God will show us signs in the heavens, does the eclipse have anything to do with that?
Well, okay, so they related it to a couple things in the Bible, which I thought were very, very interesting. And they're actually saying that the X is more like a symbol that they talk about in the Bible, so on and so forth. And that may happen. It may happen. I don't feel like this was the day, I guess, based on all the fake information about all the cities, Nineveh and all the cities, Salem. If it was real information, then I would give it more credence than that. But I believe God's taking care of us anyways. So I guess I don't need an event to happen to know that, because I'm watching the deep state with my own eyes fall. I'm watching the good guys do great work, and I'm watching we the people step up to a way that we're never going to look back again. So I guess I'm just looking at what I see with my own two eyes right now.
What do you think about CERN? Because they were talking about this CERN collider thing. They're going to activate it for the first time. And I'll be honest, I don't think that they would be telling the public that if it wasn't the first time. I think that this is all distraction, in my opinion. And I think that the good guys will have control of this now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's optics. So what happened is they're gonna restart CERN, restart because it was started before and it was taken down for a while. They're gonna restart CERN happenstance on April 8th. I think it's optics. Now, the if you read the official narrative of why they said they're going to restart CERN, is they wanted to actually be able to see dark matter. But so they were going to do all these tests and actually try to bring dark matter out. Now, a lot of people translated that, rightfully so, is they're trying to bring demons up from the darkness, right? And filter them all over the world to create havoc. Um, I do believe the original CERN was made for sinister purposes. I mean, if you just look at the opening day of CERN, where they did an absolute satanic christening of this place, it was disgusting. So yes, I don't think there's anything to worry about now. I think the good guys have taken it, and I believe that's just optics. Just like NASA shooting three rockets, what are they going to really do, right? I believe a lot of this is optics, because what I call the gray hats, you may call the white hats. I believe the gray hats have to do a lot of deceptiveness in order to win this war. And unfortunately, it's we the people that they're deceiving in order to take us to the next step in the awakening.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're not deceiving us for bad intention. It's because we need to learn. We need to wake up. They need to show the people what the deep state is capable of,
Mhm.
so that they could wake up, so that we can all be ready for the new Earth. And also, they're playing here a five-dimensional chess game. I do believe to some degree we are in a war, and they have to deceive the other side. And if we know all the answers, they're definitely going to know all the answers. So it's not so much. It's you have to be smart, to win. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, there's hasn't been a war in history that was won without deception and infiltration. It doesn't exist. That's just how the war. That's a big component of winning a war. So the unfortunate part about us is that deception, so on and so forth, doesn't usually affect we the people too much. But we're in an informational spiritual war. Clearly, something different than we've ever been in before. That's probably why it's called biblical, right? And therefore, the fog of war affects us emotionally directly. And that's why people get so frustrated, is because in order to win this, there has to be this disinformation campaign from both sides. The key is, and I think this is what's really cool, is our discernment's a muscle, in my opinion. And the more that we work our discernment, the better it gets, and the more stronger it gets, and the more effective. So this stuff, instead of us getting too upset about it or too excited about it, if we just try to stay even keel, I believe our discernment's going to really kick into a very, very high level. And none of this stuff's going to be able to work in the future. I mean, there's kind of proof of it right now, Nick, on Twitter. Any story that comes out can be debunked within 4 hours on Twitter, just with the people using their discernment. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, we're not as gullible as we used to be. That's for sure. The world is definitely shifting, and
Yep.
we're questioning everything, as we should. Moving on to the politicians who are in position of power illegally,
Mhm.
and I can't believe how they've got away with it. They haven't sworn on oath to work for we the people, and you've got details there in front of you that you'd like to share with the viewers.
Yeah, and frankly, I got to give credit where credit was due. So I've been studying this for a little bit, In fact, there's a wonderful team of warriors in Arizona that pointed out to me that the board of supervisors in Arizona have not taken the proper oath. Like their oath was rewritten, the one that they took. And I really started to dig into this over the last 6 months. But I have to give credit where credit's due. Greg Reese of the Reese Report just put out a 5-minute video. And I have some of his transcript right here. Did a phenomenal job on it, more detailed than I could do. So I'm going to give him the credit. I'm going to read a little bit excerpts from what he has because it's really interesting. So I didn't know this. On January 10th of 1963, 45 current communist goals were submitted to the congressional record. I did know that, but I didn't know that number 13 was, quote, do away with loyalty oaths. Now, why is this important, Nick? When was Kennedy killed?
63.
I think it was 62, wasn't it? But right before this, I believe. Was it 63, by the way?
I think it was.
Okay. Somebody's going to correct us, and I know we're crazy for not knowing the answer. But the point is, and I think it's very important, is remember that Kennedy was fighting against the deep state, right? So this would be a perfect counter to Kennedy right there. So the 13th submitted on the congressional record was, quote, do away with loyalty oaths. So 60 years later, on the very same day, Joe Biden, Obrador, and Trudeau met in Mexico City for the Declaration of the North America, which states a plan to unify North America under the ideas of course, diversity, climate change, migration, health, and regional security. The beginnings of a North America Union, which is a step towards a one world government. Now, according to law, elected officials must swear an oath that will support, defend, and bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And through the Freedom of Information Act, this attorney, Todd Callender, along with his team at Project Proper Oath, they found that, guess what? Not a single member of the existing cabinet has a valid oath of office. So the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, Defense Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and we know his scandalous thing. I don't even know if he's on this earth anymore, right? Attorney General Merrick Garland, and Anthony Blinken. I mean, Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, Pete Buttigieg. None of them have taken an oath. How about Javier Becerra, who I believe was in charge of the lockdowns and all the emergencies during COVID-19, right? So this, and the former Center of Disease Control, the list goes on and on and on. Of course, your buddy Jack Smith, who's going after Trump, has no oath of office. This is interesting. So what this does, and we already know Kamala Harris doesn't have an oath of office. What this does is this gives them, in my opinion, Nick, cover. The fact that they never took the oath, why would they have to abide by the oath? I believe it gives them a layer of protection, in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not breaking any oaths because they don't want to agree to the oaths. Therefore, they can be above the law and not serve the public, and at the same time, not break oaths that they never took in the first place. So that goes to show evidence that they're not working for we the people, because they would have taken the oath otherwise. But shouldn't it be illegal for them to be in this position?
I agree. I agree. They shouldn't even be around. But and this could be all part of the optics. You're right, by the way, it's 1963. I don't know why I was thinking November 22nd, 62. But anyways, so interesting enough. So they put this in January 10th, 1963, and within 11 months, Kennedy is assassinated. The same person that's fighting back, the same person that pretty much created the special forces. And possibly some people say that he could have been part of creating the original Q. Don't know at the moment.
Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I just hope we see justice. Do you think are we going to see this? I mean, we're seeing it now with a lot of people with child trafficking, with what's happening in Hollywood. And some
Yeah.
of you might not really care about Sean Diddy Combs, a rapper in, in hip hop. But the reason why I think it's important to care is because these people are tied to a lot of other people who are politicians like Barack Obama, the royal family of the UK, many more that you might be very surprised of, and it could bring down the whole establishment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, in fact, a couple of years ago, I predicted that there's going to be two other large scenarios that are bigger than Epstein Island. I said one would be in the entertainment industry. I think I actually said specifically Hollywood, but the entertainment industry, and the other one I believe is on an island controlled by the royals, and almost all the royals, not just the UK royals. And the main purpose of these, this is what people have to understand. The purpose is not for the abuse of the kids and the trafficking and all the dastardly deeds they do, right? That's that is secondary, believe it or not, on these events. These are purely to compromise dignitaries and people of wealth and anybody that has influence so they can do the bidding of the deep state. This is why the FBI is involved. This is why I believe the CIA is involved. I know Mossad is involved in the Epstein Island. So this is now, I'm not saying that the craziness and the trafficking and the satanic abuse doesn't happen. It does. Oh, it does in big times. They don't film those events because the elites are participating in them themselves. These events are intentionally filmed just to compromise other elites so they do the bidding for them. And I believe you're going to see another one um, hopefully soon. That's, I believe it's an island from what I'm learning. And it's been occupied by the royals. And no, it's not the one with the hunting parties, by the way. They generally do that on their own properties. So this is very, very interesting. I believe this is another takedown of the deep state. Now, I do have a concern. This P. Diddy one was swept up by the Southern District of New York. The Southern District of New York is deep state central. They're the ones coming after President Trump. The Southern District of New York is who puts all these false claims at, and they're known for covering things up. So I'm hoping that they didn't just swoop in there to cover all this stuff up. I do believe you're going back to your question about it coming out. I believe a lot of this is going to come out. I do believe there's going to be a lot that won't come out, and it's just going to be because they made some deal with some, let's say it's somebody that owns a large corporation, has a lot of information. Maybe he didn't directly harm children. They may get him to retire, maybe even put him in jail, but his legacy will remain because that's a deal that he cut because he ended up snitching on the baddies. So I do believe that we're not going to see every single story disclosed because I believe some of these will get some form of immunity. Like Robert David Seal says, there's going to have to be some type of reconciliation in order to really win this war.
Well, that's because you need to get a bad guy, and then you need to say to this bad guy, look, we'll give you a linear sentence. We will help you. You're still going to get punished.
Right.
We need you to help us bring the others down, and we will take care of your legacy. Now, if that's going to feed their ego and they're going to be happy with that and they're happy to go down and bring everybody else down for the rest of humanity and moving forward in the future, I think I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about the courts covering up certain things, the deep state. Maybe the white hats right now are giving those people a chance to, cover things up because they need evidence to show them, look, you've had this opportunity to do this, but you've chosen to cover it up. So maybe they're being trapped as part of the takedown. They're being used. They're being forced to get caught, if you know what I mean. What do you think about
Yeah.
it?
I think that's a reasonable. We know they did that for the election. there's a lot of people that were set up for the election. We do have all the information right now. In fact, I'm doing an interview today on my program with Michelle Schwinnick, and she is probably the best election investigator that I know of, and she has evidence after evidence after evidence. So if she can get it, I guarantee you the so-called good guys have had it and have had it for a long time, and they'll release it when it's time to release. It's not my timeline, it's God's timeline. And as soon as I recognize that, I'm a lot more patient than I would be if I expect it to be done on my timeline.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much. And also, I wanted to say one more thing, Lewis.
Sure.
Before we came on the platform, obviously we just spoke, and I'm back in Miami, and I love Miami. It's beautiful. But I've been infected by mosquito bites, and you says to me, "Why don't you use Neumi? Why don't you tell me why you recommend Neumi for my mosquito bites?"
All right. So Neumi skin is amazing. So what happens is glutathione is by far the most powerful antioxidant on the planet. They call it the master antioxidant. So what happens is with Neumi, you take it internally, right? Which is fantastic. Now, Neumi skin works externally, so it goes to work immediately, and it just tells your body to take care of business, right? This is why I love this, is because to me, everybody was created perfect, right? We have a perfect healing system. We're a perfect, you can say, a machine that just everything operates perfectly. What happens is we've been attacked from childhood by vaccines, by food, by chemicals, by even marketing messages are an attack on us in some way. So what happens is, the amazing thing is the Neumi, the glutathione kind of resets everything, and it gets your mitochondria and your immune system to start doing the work for you. And it finds the issues, which is crazy. So virtually every time I hear an issue, I'm like, are you taking glutathione? Right? And if not, I explain to them that this is the only glutathione on the planet that has nanosized the particles so small that you swish it in your mouth and you get it. It bypasses the gut, and you're good to go. It's an amazing product. I've seen the results, and like the results are so amazing that the company kind of doesn't even want us to talk about them sometimes, because the FDA will come after them.
And they will do it, and they had to go at me for actually telling a story, which I'll be a little bit more ambiguous. Is that I gave some Neumi creams to my friend who suffers a lot from skin disorder, and it begins with EX. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It comes up really red and everything. And she called me, and she said to me, "It's all gone." Just within a few days, it's all gone. She goes, "All the other creams and all the prescriptions that the doctors gave me didn't work. But this is lovely. This is perfect. It all worked." So I'm going to definitely try it on my skin, on my mosquito bites. I need to order some more, because the other ones I left in London. I'm in Miami right now. But Lewis, it's been a great honor to have you on my show. Thank you very much for sharing everything with us today. I will be leaving the link below for Neumi, which is a master glutathione, that works amazing, that me and Lewis both are a big advocate for. The link will be in the description below. Lewis, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, I have my hands in a lot of pies. I do documentaries and interviews, and I have the news. So if you want to find me and what we do, just go to screwbiggov.com. That's it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I will speak again very soon. You take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless. Thank you, Nicholas.